When a brilliant surgeon turned janitor and his grieving son cross paths with Manhattan's most ruthless CEO at an exclusive charity gala, a whispered child's wish ignites an impossible connection that will shatter corporate empires, expose buried traumas, and prove that the most powerful transformations begin with the smallest acts of humanity. The Meridian Grand Ballroom glittered like a cathedral of wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors so polished they reflected the designer gowns and tailored tuxedos of Manhattan's elite. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner, the music barely audible over the murmur of seven-figure conversations. Dr. Marcus Reed, though no one here knew that title, stood at the service entrance in his maintenance uniform, one hand gripping a mop bucket, the other holding tight to his 7-year-old son's hand. "Dad, it's so pretty," whispered Ethan, his eyes wide with wonder. The boy wore his only dress shirt wrinkled despite Marcus's careful ironing, and pants that were slightly too short at the ankles. Marcus's jaw tightened. He shouldn't have brought Ethan tonight. But the sitter had canceled last minute, and he couldn't afford to lose this job. Not when they were 3 months behind on rent. "Stay close to me, buddy. We'll just be in the back, okay? Mr. Reed." The event coordinator, a sharp-featured woman named Patricia, click-clacked over in stilettos. "You were supposed to be here an hour ago. There's a spill in the VIP lounge and—" She stopped, eyeing Ethan with visible disgust. "Is that a child?" "I'm sorry, Miss Patricia. Emergency situation. He'll stay out of the way, I promise. This is a $10,000 a plate charity gala, not a daycare." She thrust a key card at him. "VIP lounge, 3rd floor, make it invisible. And keep that," she gestured at Ethan like he was a stain, "out of sight." Marcus's face burned, but he nodded. He'd swallowed worse humiliations in the past 3 years. The main doors opened, and the ballroom fell into a hush so complete the Vivaldi suddenly seemed deafening. Victoria Ashford had arrived. She moved through the crowd like winter itself, 6 feet tall in Louboutin heels, wrapped in a white Valentino gown that cost more than most people's cars. Her platinum blonde hair was pulled back so severely it looked painful. At 34, she built Ashford Global Industries into a $12 billion empire, and her reputation was simple: brilliant, brutal, untouchable. Her assistant, James, whispered in her ear as she walked, "The board vote is tomorrow. Blackwood's still pushing for the hostile takeover. You need at least 3 senators tonight." "I'm aware," Victoria said, her voice crystalline and cold. "Senator Morrison is at table 7. I'll handle it." She didn't smile. She never smiled. Smiling was vulnerability, and Victoria Ashford had built her throne on the elimination of every weakness. Behind her, at a careful distance, walked a small figure in a powder blue dress, Sophia, her 8-year-old daughter. The girl's face was expressionless, trained into the same mask her mother wore. She carried a small purse and walked with practiced elegance, her childhood buried beneath layers of etiquette, training, and boarding school discipline. Marcus hurried toward the service elevator, Ethan's hand in his, trying to be invisible. They were almost there when Ethan stopped dead. "Dad," he breathed, "look at her." He was staring at Sophia. The little girl had paused near a towering floral arrangement, her mask slipping for just a moment. She reached out to touch a white rose, her fingers gentle, and for 1 second, she looked like what she was, a lonely child in a room full of strangers. Before Marcus could stop him, Ethan walked over. "Hi," he said simply. "I'm Ethan. That's a really pretty dress." Sophia jerked back, startled. Up close, Marcus could see the sadness in her eyes, expertly hidden, but unmistakable to anyone who'd seen that look in a mirror. Thank you, Sophia whispered, glancing nervously toward where her mother had disappeared into the crowd. Do you like flowers? My dad says flowers are nature's way of smiling. I think that's nice because, Sophia, Victoria's voice cut through the air like a blade. She materialized beside them, her eyes moving from her daughter to Ethan to Marcus in his janitor's uniform. Her expression froze. Step away from my daughter. Ma'am, I apologize, Marcus said quickly, pulling Ethan back. You didn't mean any. Who are you? How did you get in here? Her gaze was surgical, dissecting him in seconds. The worn shoes, the name tag, the poverty he tried so hard to hide. I work here, ma'am. Maintenance. We were just leaving. Maintenance? A man in a $1,000 suit appeared at Victoria's elbow, his face twisted in disgust. Patricia, there are homeless people wandering the gala. Laughter rippled through the nearby crowd. Marcus felt Ethan's hand tighten in his. We're not homeless, Ethan said loudly, his voice shaking. My dad works really hard. Ethan, come on. Marcus tried to pull him away, but Victoria raised one hand. Silence fell. She studied them both for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to the man in the suit. Richard, if you interrupt me again tonight, I'll make sure your firm never sees another Ashford contract. Am I clear? Richard paled and retreated. Victoria looked back at Marcus. Your son has more manners than half the people in this room. She paused, then added almost unwillingly, and more courage. Before Marcus could respond, she turned and walked away, Sophia hurrying after her. But the little girl looked back once, catching Ethan's eye. She smiled. Marcus's hands shook as he mopped the VIP lounge. The interaction had rattled something loose inside him. The way Victoria had looked at him, like she could see through the uniform to the man he used to be. The man he'd destroyed through one terrible mistake. Dad? Ethan sat on a velvet sofa, swinging his legs. Why did that lady protect us? I don't know, buddy. I think she's sad. Like you. Marcus froze, mop in hand. What? You get sad at night, when you think I'm sleeping. I can hear you crying sometimes. Ethan's voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes were too knowing for 7. That girl, Sophia, she had sad eyes too. Maybe she needs a friend. Ethan, maybe you need a friend too, Dad. The words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. He turned away, blinking hard, and that's when the door burst open. A group of socialites swept into the VIP lounge, champagne glasses in hand, their laughter shrill and weaponized. At the center was Diane Westbrook, oil heiress and professional mean girl. Oh my God, she announced loudly, spotting Marcus. They really will let anyone in these days. Her friends giggled. Marcus kept his head down, continuing to work. Tell me, Diane said, sauntering over. Do they pay you extra to bring your child to work? Is that the new charity angle? Help a struggling single dad? She made air quotes, smirking. Leave him alone, a small voice said. Everyone turned. Sophia stood in the doorway, her mother behind her, Victoria's face unreadable. Sophia, darling, Diane cooed with false sweetness. You shouldn't talk to the help. It's not proper. He's not the help, he's a person. Sophia's voice was quiet but steady. And his son is nice. Nicer than anyone here. The room went silent. Victoria studied her daughter with something that might have been surprise. Then she turned her glacial gaze on Diane. Diane, your family's oil company is currently under investigation for environmental violations. My legal team compiled the evidence. Would you like me to release it tonight, or would you prefer to leave quietly? Diane's face went white. She fled, her entourage scattering like startled birds. Victoria turned to Marcus. You. What's your name? Marcus Reed, ma'am. You have medical training. It wasn't a question. She'd noticed the way he'd instinctively assessed her daughter when she'd approached, checking for signs of distress, his gaze clinical. Marcus's jaw tightened. I used to. Used to? I don't practice anymore. Why? The question hung in the air. Marcus looked at Ethan, who was watching him with worried eyes. Because I killed someone. Marcus said quietly, and I couldn't live with myself after that. Victoria dismissed everyone from the lounge with a single gesture. When they were alone, just her, Sophia, Marcus, and Ethan, she locked the door. Explain, she said. Marcus sat down heavily. He'd spent 3 years running from this story. But something about Victoria's unflinching gaze made him realize she wouldn't accept anything less than the truth. I was a cardiothoracic surgeon, one of the best in the state. I had a wife, Sarah, and Ethan. We had everything. His voice cracked. 3 years ago, I was called into emergency surgery. 36 hours straight I'd been working. I was exhausted, but I was arrogant. I thought I could handle it. Ethan moved closer to his father, leaning against his leg. I made a mistake during the operation. A small one. A single suture. Wrong placement. The patient died on the table. Marcus closed his eyes. Turned out the patient was the son of a hospital board member. They launched an investigation. My medical license was suspended, then revoked. But that wasn't the worst part. What was? Victoria's voice had lost its edge. Sarah couldn't handle the scandal, the lawsuits, the media, watching our life fall apart. She left us 6 months later, took her car, her clothes, emptied our bank account, and disappeared. I haven't heard from her since. He looked at Ethan. She left a note. Said she couldn't be married to a killer. Sophia gasped softly. She moved closer to Ethan, and the two children stood together, a small island in the massive room. So I became a janitor, Marcus continued, because it's all I'm qualified for now, and because every day I need to remind myself that I'm not the man I used to be. I don't deserve to be. Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then she said, You were sleep-deprived. They worked you for 36 hours straight. Yes, but that's medical malpractice on the hospital's part. They created an unsafe environment. Her voice was sharp, analytical. You were a scapegoat. It was still my hand that. Tell me something, Dr. Reed. Before that surgery, how many successful operations had you performed? Over 2,000. And you saved how many lives? Marcus didn't answer. More than 2,000 people are alive because of you. But you've spent 3 years punishing yourself for one death that wasn't even entirely your fault. Victoria's eyes blazed. That's not justice. That's self-destruction. You want to know why I defended you downstairs? Victoria said suddenly. Because I saw myself. Sophia looked up at her mother, shocked. Victoria sat down, a gesture so unusual that Marcus realized he'd never seen her not standing in a position of power. My husband left me 2 years ago, walked out the day I closed the Ashford-Chen merger, the deal that made us billions. Said I loved my company more than I loved him. Maybe he was right. She looked at Sophia, and for the first time, her mask cracked. I sent Sophia to boarding school when she was 6, because I didn't know how to be both a mother and a CEO. I chose the CEO. Mom, Sophia whispered. I see her 3 times a month. Scheduled appointments in my calendar. Quality time, they call it. But it's not quality. It's just time. Victoria's voice broke. I don't know my own daughter. I don't know her favorite color, or what she dreams about, or what makes her laugh. I've built an empire, but I've lost everything that matters. Sophia ran to her mother, burying her face in Victoria's lap. The CEO's carefully constructed armor shattered completely. She wrapped her arms around her daughter and wept. Ethan looked at his father, then walked over and put his small hand on Sophia's shoulder. "It's okay," he said gently. "Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be happy. But we can help them remember." The moment was broken by shouting from the hallway. Marcus yanked open the door to find chaos, people running, someone screaming for a doctor. His instincts activated before his brain caught up. He was moving, pushing through the crowd, Ethan and the others forgotten behind him. In the center of the ballroom, a man in his 60s lay on the floor, clutching his chest. His face was gray, his breathing labored. "Cardiac arrest. Someone call 911, a woman shrieked. "They're 10 minutes out," someone else yelled. Marcus dropped to his knees beside the man. His hands moved automatically, checking pulse, checking airways, his medical training flooding back like muscle memory. "I need the AED, now," he barked. "Who the hell are you?" a man in a tuxedo demanded. "I'm a doctor. Move." Someone thrust the automated external defibrillator at him. Marcus ripped open the man's shirt, attached the pads, his movements precise and practiced. The device analyzed the rhythm. Clear. He delivered the shock. The man's body convulsed. Nothing. Marcus started compressions. 30 of them, fast and deep. Then rescue breaths. The crowd had gone silent, watching this janitor transform into someone else entirely. "Come on," Marcus muttered. "Come on, damn it." Another shock. More compressions. And then a gasp. The man's eyes fluttered open. The crowd erupted in applause, but Marcus barely heard it. He was shaking. Years of suppressed trauma flooding through him. He'd saved a life. For the first time in 3 years, he'd saved a life. Victoria appeared beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "You're extraordinary," she said quietly. Marcus looked up at her, and something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the acknowledgement of two broken people who'd just glimpsed each other's truth. The man Marcus had saved was Senator James Morrison, one of the most powerful politicians on the East Coast. As paramedics arrived to transport him to the hospital, Morrison grabbed Marcus's hand. "You saved my life," he rasped. "Who are you?" "Nobody, sir. Just Dr. Marcus Reed," Victoria said, appearing beside them. "One of the finest surgeons this city has ever produced." Morrison's eyes widened. "Reed? I remember your case. That was a witch hunt. The hospital threw you under the bus to protect themselves from liability." "Senator, I appreciate that, but—" "I'll make some calls," Morrison said firmly. "Your license should never have been revoked. Not like that." Marcus stared at him, unable to speak. Victoria's hand tightened on his shoulder. From across the room, Ethan watched his father, tears streaming down his face. Sophia stood beside him, holding his hand. "Your dad is a hero," she whispered. "I know," Ethan said. "I always knew." An hour later, Victoria led Marcus, Ethan, and Sophia to her private suite on the hotel's top floor. The space was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that cost more than a car, art that belonged in museums. But it felt empty, sterile, like a beautiful cage. "Sit," Victoria said, and it was an order but also a plea. "Please." While Ethan and Sophia gravitated toward the windows, whispering together about the glittering city below, Victoria poured Marcus a drink. Whiskey, expensive, smooth. "I don't understand you," she said, studying him. "You saved that man without hesitation. But you've spent 3 years believing you're a killer." "Because I am." "No. You're a healer who made one mistake under impossible circumstances." She sat across from him. Do you know how many business decisions I've made that destroyed lives? Companies I've bankrupted, jobs I've eliminated, families I've ruined in the name of quarterly profits. That's different, is it? I've built my entire identity on being ruthless, on never showing weakness, on winning at all costs. She looked at Sophia, who was showing Ethan a drawing she'd made on a napkin. And I've lost my daughter in the process. So tell me, Dr. Reed, who's the real killer here? By the windows, Ethan and Sophia had formed their own alliance. My dad cries at night, Ethan confided. I think he's lonely. My mom never cries, Sophia said, but I think that's worse. It's like she forgot how. Maybe they could help each other. Sophia's eyes lit up. Like, if they were friends? Or more than friends, Ethan said, thoughtfully. I heard my dad talking once, before Mom left. He said he and Mom met because they were both sad, and they made each other happy for a while. Maybe your mom and my dad could do that. But how do we make them see it? Ethan thought for a moment, then smiled, his father's smile, before the tragedy had dimmed it. We'll show them that family doesn't have to look the same for everyone. That sometimes the people you need are the ones you never expected. He only needs a sister, Sophia whispered suddenly. What? That's what I heard my nanny say once. She was talking to another nanny, and they were talking about lonely children. She said, that boy only needs a sister. I think I only need a brother. The two children looked at each other, and without words, they understood. They joined hands. A pact formed in innocence and hope. Victoria had moved to stand beside Marcus at the bar. They weren't touching, but they were close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something cold and elegant, that shouldn't have been appealing, but somehow was. My husband said I had ice for blood, Victoria said quietly. Maybe he was right. I watched him walk out the door, and I felt nothing. Or I told myself I felt nothing. But late at night, when the work is done and the deals are signed, I lie awake and wonder if I traded my humanity for a stock price. You defended us tonight, Marcus said. You didn't have to. You could have let them humiliate us and walked away. But you didn't. Said, I saw my daughter's face when that woman insulted you. It was the first time in 2 years I've seen Sophia show genuine emotion in public. Victoria's voice broke. She cared about you, about Ethan, more than she's cared about anything in so long. P.S. Kids see what we can't, Marcus said. They see the truth before we bury it under excuses and fear. Victoria turned to him. Are you afraid, Dr. Reed? Terrified, he admitted. Every day. I'm afraid I'll fail Ethan the way I failed that patient, the way I failed my wife. I'm afraid I'll lose him or damage him, or stop. Victoria's hand touched his, shocking them both. Listen to me. You haven't failed anyone. You're still standing. You're still fighting. That takes more courage than anything I've ever done in a boardroom. They stood there, two broken people in a perfect penthouse, the city glittering below like false promises. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt quite so alone. Marcus woke on Victoria's sofa to find Ethan asleep in his arms, and Sophia curled up beside them, all three of them tangled together under an expensive throw blanket. Victoria sat across the room in a chair, still in her gown, watching them. She hadn't slept. She looked exhausted, and more human than Marcus had thought possible. They fell asleep talking about starting a secret sibling club, she said softly. Something about Operation Make the Grown-Ups Happy. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. They're plotting against us. Good. We deserve it. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from his supervisor. You're fired. Don't come back. His stomach dropped. Apparently, bringing Ethan to work last night was the last straw. Victoria's expression hardened. I'll make a call. No. Marcus stood carefully, disentangling himself from the children. I appreciate it, but I need to stand on my own. I've been hiding for 3 years. Maybe it's time to stop. Then let me help you do it properly. Victoria stood as well. Senator Morrison meant what he said. I can connect you with the medical board, start the license reinstatement process. Victoria, you barely know me. I know enough. She moved closer. I know you're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me and seen something other than a bank account or a business opportunity. I know your son has more emotional intelligence than my entire executive team, and I know that last night you reminded me that I'm human, that I have a heart, even if I've spent years trying to freeze it solid. Before Marcus could respond, Victoria's phone exploded with notifications. Then his. Then every device in the room lit up simultaneously. James, Victoria's assistant, burst through the door, his face pale. We have a problem, a massive problem. He thrust his tablet at Victoria. On the screen was a video, already at 3 million views and climbing. It showed Marcus and Victoria in the VIP lounge the previous night, but it was edited. Cleverly, maliciously, edited to make it look like Victoria was propositioning a staff member. The audio was spliced. You have medical training. I'll make it worth your while. Nobody needs to know. The caption read, Ice Queen CEO, caught in scandal with hotel staff. Ashford's dark secrets exposed. Oh my God, Marcus breathed. Victoria's face had gone completely white. The board vote is today. Blackwood, my competitor. He's been trying to engineer a hostile takeover for months. If the board thinks I'm involved in a scandal. Her phone rang. Her lawyer. Victoria, I need you to issue a statement immediately. Deny everything. Distance yourself from this man. His name is Marcus Reed, and he's not this man, Victoria snapped. Victoria, if you don't act now, you'll lose Ashford Global. Everything you've built. Is one night with a stranger worth that? She looked at Marcus, at Ethan and Sophia, now waking up on the sofa, confused and frightened by the sudden tension. Yes, Victoria said quietly, he is. She hung up. Within an hour, the hotel was surrounded by reporters. Marcus's face was plastered across every news outlet. His past was dredged up, sensationalized, weaponized. Disgraced doctor seduces billionaire CEO. From ER to scandal. Marcus Reed's fall from grace. Marcus sat with his head in his hands, while Victoria paced, her legal team on conference call, her world imploding in real time. I need to leave, Marcus said. Take Ethan and disappear. If I'm gone, the story dies. If you leave, they win, Victoria said fiercely. Blackwood, the media vultures, everyone who's ever tried to destroy me, they win. And I don't lose. This isn't about winning. This is about your life, your company. This is about the truth. Victoria's voice cracked with emotion. For once in my life, something real happened. Something good. And I will not let them turn it into another transaction. Another casualty of the war I've been fighting for 10 years. Sophia started crying. Ethan held her hand tightly. Mom, Sophia whispered, are they going to take you away? Victoria knelt in front of her daughter, really looking at her for the first time in years. Maybe, sweetheart. But if they do, I want you to know something. Last night, I remembered how to feel. Your friend Ethan and his dad, they reminded me what matters. And even if I lose everything else, I won't lose that. Marcus's phone rang. Senator Morrison. Dr. Reed, I've been watching the news. That video is doctored. Any forensic analyst can see the edit points. But that's not why I'm calling. Morrison's voice was urgent. I just received an interesting file from an anonymous source. It details Blackwood Industries' illegal dumping practices, offshore tax evasion, and, most importantly, evidence that Blackwood himself orchestrated this smear campaign. including paying a hotel employee to record and edit that video. Marcus's mind raced. Senator, I need to go public with my story. The real story, not the one they're telling. Are you sure? Once you do, there's no going back. Marcus looked at Victoria, at the woman who'd defended him when she had every reason not to, who'd shown him that courage wasn't about never falling, it was about standing back up. I've been running for 3 years, Marcus said. I'm done running. 2 hours later, Marcus stood in the Ashford Global boardroom, facing 20 board members and a phalanx of cameras. Victoria stood beside him, her hand almost, but not quite, touching his. Blackwood sat at the far end of the table, smug and confident. This is highly irregular, one board member said. The vote is supposed to. Before you vote, you need to hear the truth, Victoria said. Her voice was steel. Not the fabricated scandal Blackwood created to seize control of my company. The truth. She nodded to Marcus. He stepped forward, every instinct screaming at him to run. But he thought of Ethan, watching from a side room with Sophia. He thought of the man he used to be, and the man he could still become. My name is Dr. Marcus Reed, he began. 3 years ago, I made a mistake that cost a life. It destroyed my career, my marriage, my sense of self. I became a janitor because I believed I deserved nothing better. But last night, Victoria Ashford showed me something I'd forgotten. That mistakes don't define us. Our response to them does. He pulled out his phone, displaying the message from Morrison's team. This is evidence that Blackwood Industries paid a hotel employee to create that video, to destroy Miss Ashford's reputation, and stage a corporate coup. The video is a fabrication, but more than that, it's a symptom of the poison that's infected the corporate world. The belief that people are disposable, that truth is negotiable, that power matters more than humanity. Victoria stepped forward. I dote this company by being ruthless, by treating people as assets and competitors as enemies. But last night, a janitor and his 7-year-old son taught me more about leadership than I've learned in 15 years of business. They taught me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about being brave enough to let someone see you broken. She turned to Blackwood. So here's my counter offer. You can take your fraudulent evidence, your staged scandal, and your hostile takeover attempt, and you can choke on it. Because this company is mine, not because I'm the most ruthless person in the room, but because I'm finally willing to fight for something that actually matters. The board members sat in stunned silence. Then Senator Morrison entered the room. I forwarded all evidence of Blackwood's fraud to the SEC and the FBI. Mr. Blackwood, I'd suggest you hire a lawyer. A very good one. Security escorted Blackwood out as he screamed threats and obscenities. The board voted, unanimously, in Victoria's favor. She'd won, but more importantly, she'd transformed. That evening, as the city blazed with sunset, Marcus found Victoria on the rooftop of Ashford Tower. She stood at the edge, looking out over Manhattan, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked peaceful. Ethan and Sophia are downstairs planning their secret sibling club headquarters, Marcus said, joining her. Apparently, it's going to involve a lot of blanket forts and strategic midnight snacks. Victoria laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and beautiful. Sophia told me she wants to uninvite her from boarding school. Stay here, with me, with us. What did you say? I said yes. Then I cried for an hour. She turned to him. I resigned from half my committees today. Hired a new COO. Cut my work schedule to 40 hours a week. Victoria, you don't have to. I do. Because Sophia asked me what my favorite color is, and I couldn't answer. I'm 34 years old, and I don't know my own favorite color, because I've spent 15 years believing that personal preferences were weaknesses. Her voice broke. I don't want to be that person anymore. Marcus took her hand. It felt natural now, inevitable. For what it's worth, I think it's blue. Ice blue. But the kind of blue that melts in sunlight. She kissed him. Soft, tentative, like someone relearning how to be human. When they pulled apart, both of them were trembling. I'm terrified, Victoria whispered. I don't know how to do this, how to be vulnerable, how to let someone in. Neither do I, Marcus admitted. I'm broke, traumatized, and unemployed. I'm the worst possible romantic prospect. You're the man who saved a life and asked for nothing in return. The man who raised a beautiful, empathetic child despite unimaginable loss. The man who saw through my armor when everyone else was too afraid to try. She squeezed his hand. You're exactly what I need. 3 months later, Marcus stood before the state medical board, his hands shaking, but his voice steady. I'm not here to make excuses for what happened 3 years ago, he said. A patient died because of a decision I made. That's a fact I'll carry forever. But I'm also here to tell you that I've spent 3 years punishing myself, and in the process, I've deprived the world of whatever good I might still do. He glanced at the gallery, where Victoria sat with Ethan and Sophia. They gave him identical, encouraging smiles. I want my license back, not because I deserve it, but because there are people out there who need doctors willing to take risks, to make difficult calls, to show up exhausted and scared and do the work anyway. I can be that doctor again, if you'll let me. The board deliberated for 2 hours. When they called him back in, the chair said simply, Dr. Reed, your license is reinstated. Welcome back to medicine. 6 months later, the Reed-Ashford household, as the kids had insisted on calling it, gathered in the massive living room of Victoria's penthouse, which now actually felt like a home, with art projects on the fridge and toys scattered across the floor. Ethan and Sophia wore matching t-shirts that said, Secret Sibling Club, founding members. Okay, Sophia said seriously, consulting a notebook. Our mission is to make sure all the sad grown-ups in the world find their people, like Dad and Mom did. She'd started calling Marcus Dad 3 months ago, and he'd cried for an hour. We've already helped Mrs. Chen from the building, Ethan added. We introduced her to Mr. Rodriguez, and now they have coffee every morning. Victoria and Marcus sat on the couch, his arm around her shoulders, both of them watching their children with wonder. They're plotting to save the world, Marcus murmured. Of course they are. They saved us. Victoria leaned into him. I got a call from my ex-husband today. Marcus tensed. What did he want? To apologize. He saw the news coverage.